At 19,341 feet, Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. While nearly all routes are non-technical, our 6-day climb to the summit was a rewarding experience that immersed us in the expansive East African landscape and the rich Tanzanian culture. Here is a collection of our favorite photos and videos from the trip. We arrived to Kilimanjaro National Airport late the first night. Had we arrived during the day, we would have been able to see Kilimanjaro from the van windows the entire drive to the hotel. In the morning, we met our crew of guides and porters and then loaded up in a bus, which brought us to the Machame gate. Okay, so we're here at the Machame gate. We just packed up, got our boxed lunches and got some water. And Dad's just in the bathroom right now, but we're getting ready to set off. Met the guide this morning, and the whole team of porters and the cook, and we've got 13 guys plus the 2 of us, so it'll be 15 of us hiking up the mountain. We'll turn this around, and here are the boxed lunches that we just got. Dad's pack, my pack right there. You can see the landscape is very jungly for sure. There's a law in Tanzania that restricts how much weight each porter can carry up the mountain, so it is a big and important process at the beginning of each hike to weigh each of the porter's bags. And so now we've begun our hiking, and we're a couple miles in or so, taking a rest to eat lunch. Here you see our head guide Festo on the left and the assistant guide Roderick on the right. The 2 of them hike with us as a group of 4, and the porters are spread out along the trail, a couple behind, but most ahead of us so they can beat us to the campsite and begin setting up. There aren't a ton of pictures from the first day. It rained a little bit on us, and thankfully that was all it rained for the entire trip, so in the end we were feeling pretty lucky. This photo shows our sleeping tent, and I'm standing right beside the mess tent where we ate our meals and relaxed in the evenings. The cook did a very nice job cooking for us, fresh meals that were filling and tasted good. The weather followed the same general trend each day, cloudy in the mid-morning through the late afternoon, and then the sky would clear just before dusk, staying cloud-free through the night. Notice the difference in the view of the mountain in these 2 shots, one in the late afternoon and the next in the following morning. Day 2 was a short hiking day, just 5 kilometers from the Machame camp to the Shira Cave camp, compared to the first day's 11 kilometers and 4,000 vertical feet. The sunshine was nice, and it also felt good to see the jungle vegetation thin out and then completely disappear as we moved into the moorland climate.
Started day 2, just leaving the first camp. Good morning.
Starting here, and for the next couple of days we had great views off to the west toward Mount Meru, which is the 2nd tallest mountain in Tanzania. It's about 15,000 feet. The hiking here was pretty steep but consistent, and the slow pace seemed to conserve our energy well. It only took a few hours to reach the Shira Cave camp, where we spent night number 2. Compared to the Machame camp, this one is very spread out and flat, which was nice. You can see that we were some of the first hikers to arrive at the camp that day. Many porters had already been there, but only a few tourists. Throughout the afternoon, the campsite becomes very crowded, and there are tents everywhere. It was like this at every camp along the route. Later in the afternoon, we did a more formal introduction to the crew. Here we are with our 13 guides and porters. 1 head guide, an assistant guide, a cook, a waiter, an assistant cook, a camp porter, a toilet porter, and then 6 additional porters. Dusk was beautiful from the Shira Cave camp. When the higher clouds cleared, we had a great view of the mountain in front of us and then the bed of clouds beneath us. So now we're here on the morning of day 3. Even though it's between 85 and 90 degrees down in Moshi, the temperature here at about 12,500 feet was low enough to bring out the puffy jacket. Notice now as we begin our hiking this day, we quickly lose all vegetation. Day 3 takes us up to the lava tower at 15,000 feet and then down to Barranco Camp, which is at about 13,000 feet. The idea is to hike high and then sleep low. That'll give your body the best chance to acclimatize.
So look at all of the people. All the way down there, coming up from that peak. We zoom back out. Here we are, stopped. There's the mountain. And we're headed up towards there. And then camp is somewhere over here, I think. A little after 10 right now, right? Just joining up with the Machame people. About 2 hours in today, a little more than that. And so we meet up right here. And then everybody starts heading off in that direction.
We made it to the lava tower in good time. Most hikers will have a hot lunch at the lava tower camp and then continue down to the Barranco camp in the afternoon. However, since we arrived to the lava tower mid-morning, we kept hiking down to Barranco and had our hot lunch there instead. Barranco camp is another cool camp, not as flat as the Shira cave camp, but very expansive. In the background, you can see the Barranco wall, which we climbed the following morning on our way to Karanga and then later Barafu camp. Welcome to the Barranco camp. We're here at about 13,000 feet and we've joined up with the Machame route people that we met with earlier, and so now we expect to see more people at this campsite than the two previous campsites, because we got now two merging trails.
Fried chicken tenders we just had for lunch.
Oh yeah.
Just had the best lunch ever.
Yeah.
13,000 feet.
Yeah, like fried chicken
tenders.
tenderloins or something like that. Yeah, with French fries.
Homemade French fries.
Yeah, and we heard we're gonna get popcorn tonight, so that's nice.
Fantastic.
And
the food on this trip has been, you guys have just done a great job.
Yeah.
You know, the porters are understated and have done just an incredible job moving stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
Yeah. This begins the morning of day 4. Since the clouds were clear for the most part, we could see all the way down to Moshi from Barranco camp. You can just make out the lights from the town in this shot. So the sun came up and we enjoyed our morning tea per usual, and then suited up to begin our hiking on the Barranco wall. It's a steep wall that doesn't allow for passing of other hikers in a lot of places, so we made sure to get out there ahead of the big groups. There were a few good break spots on the wall, which were nice for photos, as we could see the entire valley, Moshi town down below, and Mount Meru off in the distance. It took just a couple of hours to climb the wall, and there's a nice flat spot at the top with great views of the peak. From the top of Barranco wall, we began traversing around the mountain rather than going straight up. Karanga camp was our next stop, and we actually had to climb down and then back out of another couple valleys. That took us another 2 hours or so from this point. So we're most of the way up the Barranco wall. Pretty steep wall. There's Mount Meru off in the distance. You can see down there, that's where we camped last night at the Barranco camp. And we just scaled up this wall that you can see kind of hidden beneath the shadow. Good resting spot. You can see the peak up there. And then we're going to continue on up towards where the sun is. Here we are
approaching the top of the mountain.
Since our pace was good to this point, our guides agreed to combine days 4 and 5, so that instead of camping out at Karanga, we would instead stop there for a hot lunch and then continue on to Barafu, which is the base camp for the summit. Days 4 and 5 were supposed to be 4 to 5 hours each of hiking, but combined we were on the trail for probably only 6 or 7. Even though we were making good time, the pace was slow enough that we didn't have any real problem with muscle exhaustion that would hurt our summit day. Our arrival at Barafu meant we reached about 15,300 feet, our last campsite before getting to the peak, which was still another 4,000 feet above us. The clouds cleared later in the evening, and we could see the campsite a bit more. We ate an early dinner and then got to bed sometime soon after that. Our wake-up time was midnight, so we could begin hiking at 1 a.m. the next morning.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock in the morning on January 2nd here in Tanzania. We woke up about an hour ago, just had our breakfast. Not too much of an appetite today. We're both feeling a little bit sick due to the altitude. Slept at 15,000 feet last night. We gave everybody else a head start. So most people were leaving base camp here at 11:30 or 12 this evening, so about an hour and a half ago. And they are there. And that's where we're going. You can't see it, but the peak will be off. Can you see my finger? The peak is somewhere there. We got about 6 hours on it.
Summit day was hands down the most difficult day. The terrain was steep but manageable. Dad was feeling fine for the most part, but I was nauseous and had a terrible headache. Nonetheless, we made it to the Stella Point right about sunrise, which was just after 6 in the morning. This is the rim of the crater, a huge milestone. Uhuru Peak, which is the summit of the mountain, was still another 45 minutes and about 500 feet up, and the trail to take us there followed the rim of the crater. The snow is very hard packed from the wind and cold up there. We probably saw the first bits of snow around 16,000 feet, and the snowpack became thicker all the way up to the top of the mountain at 19,341 feet. It felt awesome to make it to the summit after 5 days out on the mountain, but all I could think about was getting down to Barafu as fast as the team could move. I felt so sick, and descending to where there was more oxygen was the only way to fix that. The porters don't climb to the summit, only the tourists and their guides do that. So when we got back down to Barafu, they had prepared some food for us, which we still didn't really have an appetite for. It was a little after 10 a.m., so we'd been going for already 9 hours that day. From Barafu to the summit and back was 4,000 feet up and 4,000 feet down, a good-sized hike anywhere in the northeastern U.S. We rested for a couple hours and then needed to descend another 5,300 feet to Mweka camp. As you may imagine, no one was too excited to suit up to drop that much of elevation over the next 4 hours. Not even the guides, really. Getting to Mweka was worth it, though. The climb was basically over, and the cook even baked us a chocolate cake, which was decorated with icing that said congratulations on it. It was delicious and a nice way to end the summit day. Dad and I each had a piece, and the porters and guides were happy to finish the rest. The Mweka gate wasn't too far away, just a few hours of less intense terrain than the days before. As chaotic as the gates are, it was nice to see the vans again, and there was even a place for us to get a cold Coke. This was the first time that either of us had been to Africa, and climbing a mountain that is so iconic on the continent was really neat. The terrain was both beautiful and rugged, and 6 days out there has to be one of the best ways to get a true cultural immersion. We couldn't have done it without the hard work of our guides and porters. Those guys are the ones who really make it all happen. Hakuna Matata, Kilimanjaro.